One of the greatest things about being a Christian is every week you get to go to church and sing with a bunch of other people who like to sing. It kind of seems strange to a lot of people in the world that don't do that. Now, this all started when, it didn't all start, but we see that Paul gave the directive in Ephesians where he talks about speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs and singing and praising in your heart to the Lord. And we can see all the way back in the Old Testament, in Chronicles, David, who was one of God's favorite people, favorite kings, who loved the Lord so much, he would write songs to God. And we see David actually creating a service of singers and people who would play musical instruments to the Lord. We see that all together in 1 Chronicles 25, there were 288 of these Levites whose job it was to lead singing. But it seemed like it was mostly just them who was doing the singing for the most part. Part of what they were supposed to do through this was to prophesy. They were prophets. Basically, what that means, it doesn't mean that they were necessarily predicting the future or anything like that. Prophecy can also mean you're just speaking about God. We see this happening fairly early with David when the ark is returned to Jerusalem. It's this great celebration. And after all of these guys are doing all their singing and everything, he says to all the people, sing psalms to him and that sort of thing. And it included these instruments that they had for the... So what has changed? Why would Paul say that the people in the church are supposed to sing, not just watch somebody sing? It isn't just, going to church is not a performative thing that you have somebody perform to you. God is saying, you go and you sing. That is what he is saying through Paul. And so how does that even work? Well, again, and I've said this before, we see that Peter says that we are now the living stones of a spiritual house. We are now God's temple, a holy priesthood. We are priests administering to God's temple and to his people. So that is why we too are all to sing. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? But you don't have to listen to me. Just look it up for yourself.